If I could describe the Chipmunks in one word, I would say tragic.
Well, crazy stories about alcohol and drugs. And
It's rock and roll, man.
can you elaborate on that?
I mean, it's just rock and roll, right? Don't they all do it?
And, it changed my life.
Chipmunks on 16 Speed, the most important and influential alternative band of all time. Forming out of the ashes of the pop band Alvin and the Chipmunks, they went on to rule the alternative world.
What impact did the Chipmunks make on popular music? I mean, I would say they brought some of the greatest levels of hedonism and excess that the biz had seen up until that point. I mean, from that period in the 80s, they were monstrous.
Also in the 80s, they released their two albums, Sludgefest and Sludgefest Volume 2, two of the most important and greatest alternative albums ever released. But tragedy struck in 1991 when head writer of the band, Alvin Seville, died of a drug overdose. Shocked by his death, Simon was soon institutionalized, and Theodore hasn't been seen since. But their legacy lives on to this day. As good as the information Finlay gave us, there's only so much that he could know as a music historian. We figured the best way to get more information about what really occurred at Chipmunks concerts was to go straight to the source. Talk to the superfans. So we found several people online who claimed to be Chipmunk superfans and went and visited them for interviews.
So there's a lot of misinformation about the early days of the band.
Like what?
Crazy stories about alcohol and drugs. And
It's rock and roll, man.
can you elaborate on that?
I mean, it's just rock and roll, right? Don't they all do it? Get drunk and crash their cars and live fast and die young,
And
Well, I mean, when they first came together, it was just kind of like the freaks were into them, you know what I mean? It was just like word of mouth, stapling flyers at telephone poles and, sitting outside in the cold buying tickets. And, it was just the weirdos that went to see those shows.
yeah, a lot of people were turned off when Alvin and the Chipmunks rebranded into this alternative band. What did you think about the shift from poppy music to something a little grungier?
No, I thought they were hard rock from the start, man, like, BOC or Deep Purple, weren't they? They were rocking, man, when I saw them.
When was the first time you saw the Chipmunks?
1973. I remember. The first time I saw the Chipmunks was 1973.
You sure?
Yeah,
1973?
I remember because this is something you don't forget, right? So me and my buddies were late for the show because we didn't even know where the hell it was, right? So we're driving, and it was out of state. We had to drive to a different state. We crossed the border and got lost. As flat as a pancake, everything looked the same. Finally found the place, and we were thinking the show was starting already. So we see these roadies in the back of the theater, it's a big old Victorian theater, and they were, breaking some set down or I don't know what it was, their gear, And so we went back there to ask them if the show was still going on, see if we missed it, if there's any point in buying tickets or not. So we're helping them load, as it turned out, load the equipment into the theater and the stage door. I said, yeah, man. Like, those guys haven't gone on yet. I said, man, I'm a huge fan. I'm so excited for this show. So they were excited to hear that they had a fan, And so we went in, and it was just, all leather jackets and mohawks and punks and all kinds of crazy people in there. And they took the stage, and you know who was out there? It was them, the people I helped load the band.
You personally helped the Chipmunks load their gear.
Yeah, I don't know why I didn't recognize them, I don't know. Could be a lot of reasons.
Are you sure it was 1973?
Sure, of course.
1973. What? Eric claims that he saw the Chipmunks live in 1973. But that shouldn't be possible. Chipmunks on 16 Speed didn't form until 1975. It didn't start touring until 1976. What's going on here? At first I thought he was mistaken, but then he showed me this photograph. Clear as day, Cafe Wah in New York. Chipmunks, 73.
When was I introduced to Chipmunks? I was just as a child. My dad introduced me.
Your dad was a fan?
Yes, he was a super fan.
Oh, super fan. He must have seen them live, huh?
Yes, he did.
Did he ever tell you about seeing them live? Or,
He often tells his story to people. It is May 5th, 1985, at Carnegie Hall. It changed his life.
The drug culture around Chipmunks concerts was a major thing. Alvin, Simon Theodore were on fucking everything. So did you fall into that culture with them?
I would say falling into that culture with them, absolutely. I mean, they've kind of inspired me to where I'm at in my musical career as well. I dabble in some instruments, and I will say that the drugs definitely help, and they definitely make the music better.
Absolutely. Did you only see them live the one time, or did you see them more than just right there?
You know, I did only see them live one time. However, really cool fact, I actually have a bootleg copy of their third album.
Third album.
Third album. A lot of people don't know about that.
Trevor's mentioning a third album is very interesting to me. Not because it's a bootleg, but because, as far as I can tell, there's absolutely no record of a third Chipmunks album ever existing. There is no proof that the third album ever existed. But I just listened to it. I'll play some here. Another interesting thing that Trevor mentioned.
I got this ticket to Wembley on May 5th, 1985.
That concert he went to. Wembley Stadium, 1985, May 5th, 7 o'clock. When I heard that date, nothing really jumped to mind immediately. Until I went back and watched the interview with Eric Nelms.
It is May 5th, 1985, at Carnegie Hall.
What? Carnegie Hall, May 5th, 1985, 7 o'clock? There's no possible way that the Chipmunks could have been in two places at once performing. But the ticket stubs, they exist. They show that both these things are true. Well, I needed to figure out how this happened. Maybe one was a telecast and the other was live, although the way they both talked about it seemed like that wouldn't be the case. Well, when I looked online for more information, I found something even crazier. There is no evidence that either one of these concerts ever occurred. No press, no posters, nothing. No ticket sales, no live albums, no photographs, no bootleg video. The only proof that these concerts ever happened are these two ticket stubs I found. There was one thing I was told from my interview with Eric Nelms that completely blew my mind.
My dad took me in 1993. We got it on VHS.
There is no possible way he could have seen Chipmunks on 16 Speed in 1993. Alvin was dead of a drug overdose in 1991. He said he had video and that he would send it to me in the mail after I left. I decided the only true way to get the information I needed was to go straight to the store, straight to the heart of this band. I managed to track down Theodore online. I hardly know how I did it myself. And he agreed to talk to me. He did not want to be seen in person, so we arranged a phone call. Hi, Theodore. I'd like to talk to you about Chipmunks on 16 Speed.
What? Chipmunks on what?
Chipmunks on 16 Speed. The band you formed, 1975.
No. We retired. 1970. We stopped. Alvin was starting to dip into drugs, and Simon wasn't feeling right. We decided it'd be best if we called it quits. I've never heard of something called 16 Speed before.